recording. Good morning, One Heart, One Mind. I was going to start it before, and then I realized I couldn't start it once I started the music. So we're on now. So Lissa, Rob,
Yeah.
you were the practitioner last week. Lissa is, I forgot that you had changed, and sorry about that mix up. But anyway, I forgot to change it on my schedule. But Lissa, I'm going to invite you to kick us off here.
Okay. Well, I want to know that with that topic of flow. It's like the word itself feels like itself to me. That the word flow feels like that that feeling inside. I mean, it's just sort of starting from that personal place and then trying to determine when one feels it. And I was looking at something. I don't have this book, but I was looking at a description of this book that's called Flow, and where he talks about the fact that flow comes at those times when you've lost track of time, that you're so absorbed, your whole self is so involved in whatever it is that you're doing or experiencing, that you've lost sense of time and that you are one with whatever it is that you are doing or experiencing. And I thought that that was an interesting take. And then I was thinking about it. I know I'd shared with you my feelings about that movie Flow, and it still sticks with me, that whole picture of what our life is like, essentially our life in spirit and in form. That here we are, we're human beings on this planet, and we experience these different things. And some of them to us initially can seem bad, but ultimately they're not bad. And that if we're that it's our own perception and our own ability to pull up our intuition and our faith in terms of being able to perceive the situation differently and recognize that there is this other force that operates within us that assists us in flowing into what it is we need to do. So that it's kind of like I see the 3D life as kind of like uh, this thing of flow and then bumps. It's kind of the way water goes, in a river or a stream that runs over the rocks and over whatever, but it keeps on flowing. And I see that as what we are able to do as we align with spirit and take that in. So at any rate, it's kind of like the statement from the talking about that other book was that our that what we do with what information enters our consciousness is what leads us to flow, and flow leads us to ultimate happiness and contentment and connection with the whole. So flow is a wonderful thing. And so from that space, let's go into our opening prayer. I am so grateful for the flow of love that is an overarching expression of the divine presence. That source and force of life in all its expressions blesses us in all ways, especially as we realize we are one with this presence and are a unique expression of it in the here and now. And so I speak my word for all of us in knowing and feeling our connection, that we are one and that we are one with all that is, and that our connection enables us, as they say, where two or three together, to create a better world for ourselves and for everyone else on the planet. And so I'm so grateful for this. And I'm so grateful for all of our teachings and for the law and the principles of science of mind that guide us and help us to evolve ever more close to that ultimate state of oneness that is permanent for us. And so I release my word with grateful thanksgivings, and we release together by saying, and so it is. So, the affirmation for January. Today, I am renewed in mind, heart, and body. I enter the new year living in my divine nature. I live in God. I live in peace. I live in love. I live in joy. And I'm so grateful. And so it is.
So it is beautiful. So this, that was beautiful, Lisa. Thank you so much. And I
Well,
love that idea of the flow. I picked out this song by Michael Gott that I think really, well, you'll see. I think it really speaks to this idea of flow. So let's see what you think. Let's see, it's not a video, so I'm just gonna share the sound. Let's make sure my sound is up. Yes, it is. I'm just gonna share the sound. Computer audio. I love this song. I love Michael Gott. He's so awesome. Can y'all hear it?
I was feeling sad the other day, feeling sorry for myself. I had to take a walk to clear my head. I went down to the river. The water always soothes my soul. The current seems to wash my cares away. The beauty flows right through me, and I'm a part of everything I see. So alive, astounded by the majesty I see. So alive, awake to all the possible in me. So alive to the magic, so alive to the dreams, discovering that life is so much more than what it seems. I cannot be content to just survive. I'm a part of something infinite and free, and so alive. Sometimes when I'm discouraged, I go and see a friend and hold her little baby in my arms. No words could describe this. He's perfect and he's pure, and all of life's distractions fall away. The beauty flows right through me, and I'm a part of everything I see. So alive, astounded by the majesty I see. So alive, awake to all the possible in me. So alive to the magic, so alive to the dreams, discovering that life is so much more than what it seems. I cannot be content to just survive. I'm a part of something infinite and free, and so alive. Then sings my soul, how great thou art. Then sings my soul, how great thou art. So alive, astounded by the majesty I see. So alive, awake to all that's possible in me. So alive to the magic, so alive to the dreams, discovering my life is so much more than it seems I cannot be content to just survive. I'm a part of something infinite and free, and so alive.
Yeah, I think he was singing about the flow. So I love that. I just thought that was just so beautiful. So alive. I have an affinity for Michael Gutt because we were in the same ministerial class and we did our oral panels together at Asilomar so many years ago. It's funny how time flies by so fast. Oh, it's lovely though. So, good morning, everybody. Our small but mighty bunch of one heart, one minders. Love seeing you all, and I know that other people certainly watch our replay. So good morning again, and welcome to One Heart, One Mind Center for Spiritual Living. And as always, whether you're connecting in real time or replay, you're welcome in this virtual space. And I am confident that something in you will be touched by something you hear or feel throughout this service, and you'll benefit. Your life will benefit and you'll be uplifted in some hopefully unexpected and surprising way. So welcome. So we started off 2025 focused on our oneness. We're still focusing on our oneness. And that God's nature is our nature. And not just in a metaphorical way, but in a very literal way. We are God stuff in consciousness and in body, and we experience our divine nature to the degree that we embody our oneness with it, to the degree that we know who we are in God. And last week, I spoke to you about making space for the embodiment of our oneness so that it becomes our state of being, so that it becomes the vibration from which we live, that level, that frequency, so that we can begin to see the material world through the perspective of our divine identity. It's really what Lissa was just talking about in her introduction. And we see it through our divine identity rather than just from our human or egoic identity. And as metaphysicians, we know that the material world is the end product of the creative process, not the cause, but the effect. And if we're not experiencing the life we'd like to experience, then we are empowered to make a committed and a deliberate practice of going back to cause, to connect with that consciousness of oneness every day, several times a day, and to be reminded and to reestablish ourselves in our divine identity. And this week, in keeping with kind of a rather loose interpretation of what is usually January's back to basics, I'd like to talk about the flow of life, which we've already began hearing a lot about. And the flow of life, and I'd like to focus on how it relates to the creative process, to creative law. And as we allow life to flow through us, creative law responds to our particular state of being, which is guided by our perspective. Ernest Holmes, our founder, told us that there's only one law in the universe, and where we use it, it becomes our law. I love that idea. It's so empowering to me. And personally, I'd much rather be perceiving and creating from my oneness with God than from the outside world telling me who I am and what I can do. I want to stand in the flow of life's good, sourced from the infinite goodness of God. I want to know God as the cause in my life, or I guess I want to know life as God is the cause of my life, however we want to language it. And as I was putting this together, I was thinking the only catch really in perceiving and creating from our oneness is that, you know, we've all, through our lives, through our previous experiences, and from what the common culture has taught us, we've all embodied certain ideas and beliefs that may not be true, you know, and we've embodied them in our subjective mind, you know, and so much of the time, we're not even consciously aware of them. But the good news is that they will show up, they will show themselves to us as our experiences, you know, which gives us an opportunity to see them and recognize what we've embodied throughout our years of living. And then we can course correct. We can tell ourselves the truth until it is embodied in our subjective mind. And knowing how creative law works, it makes even the unwanted or uncomfortable experiences our opportunity for growth, for expansion, and they become the path to living a more joyous life. Always looking for stories, and I ran across this wonderful story by Eric Butterworth. I'm sure everybody knows who he is. He's a wonderful metaphysical author and teacher. I believe he passed several years ago, but we still read his books because they're so good. But in one of his books, The Unity of All Life, he tells a story about a man who was sitting at his desk in deep contemplation. He was at work, and he'd just been fired from a job that he had held for more than 20 years. And he was in great despair. He was asking himself, how could this possibly happen to me? Wondering how he was ever at his age going to find another job that would give him the income he needed. He was kind of in shock that he was no longer needed. He was feeling useless and kind of washed up. And then suddenly he noticed a small little spider sitting on the desk. And he kind of casually brushed it off the desk. And then he watched in awe as this tiny little spider automatically began to spin a strand, like a strand of his web, that was strong enough to bear his weight, and then it just swung gracefully to the floor. And the man asked himself, if this tiny creature can get into the flow of the mysterious source of life and deal so creatively with the crisis of being brushed off the desk, then why shouldn't I be able to do the same? And then that's what he did. He set about getting himself aligned in consciousness with the mysterious flow of life. And he realized that his good did not come to him, but rather it came through him. You know, how often do we have to remind ourselves of that? And it came from the infinite flow of divine good, you know, God as source. And while God's good comes to us through the material world, it's not sourced from the material world. And this guy realized that as he realized that, you know, that something new is on the horizon. He knew that he wasn't going to get his old job back, but that he most certainly could move forward to something better. It would simply require a new consciousness, an alignment in mind and body with the flow of this life, the same life that he watched the spider use as it floated so effortlessly to the ground. And then he was afforded the opportunity, at least this is what Butterworth said in his story, to do something he always wanted to do. He always wanted to write. And Butterworth says in his story that although he didn't become a Hemingway, he did begin to write. And he said about a lot of his writing sold, and that he was able to establish an economic security that originally he didn't think he was going to be able to do. All because he consciously and with committed practice embodied his oneness with the divine flow. You know, life gives itself to us so freely and with deep meaning when we look for it. You know, think about all the things that you love about your life, your family, your friends, art, music, everything in nature, you know, the trees, the ocean, the sky. Think about what it is that you really love about these things. It's not just their physical appearance or even their presence. It's the energy that is behind their presence. It's the love that's flowing through them and presenting itself in a marvelous array of multiplicity of forms, all expressed from the one. You know, the things you love simply touch that place in you that recognizes its own nature. It's the namaste consciousness. You know, we say that all the time. The God in me recognizes and honors the God in you. Namaste. You know, and we feel the sacred life flowing through us all the time, you know, just the same way it flows through all of God's creation. And it sparks that divine recognition that we're one with the entirety of life, that we're not alone, but we are empowered by our divine inheritance to connect with its flow. You know, and that flow is how we participate, or we can choose to participate with creative law. And I've noticed that when we're really firmly established in a habitual pattern of seeing God in all things, that we begin to notice it even in the things that seem like they're in contradiction to God, you know, to love. You know, we begin to, when we're in the habit of seeing the flow of life through everything, we begin to look below the surface, you know, to see the old breaking down and the new being born instead of something that's just terrible. We can see it for what it is, a call to love. You know, and I'll give you an example. I love to garden. Said that before. I used to garden a lot more than I do now, but I still love it. When I first started gardening, I used to make my own compost with kitchen garbage and grass clippings and yard debris, 90% carbon and 10% nitrogen. I still know the formula. And my compost was smelly and filled with all kinds of bugs. I didn't really like it that much, but then I realized the magic, the transformation that was happening in my compost pile is that it was breaking all the old stuff down. You know, even the smelly bugs, or the bugs and the smelly bacteria, were breaking down the old into the new rich soil. You know, it was full of nutrients so that my beautiful garden, my productive garden, could be born. And isn't life just like that? Sometimes life gets pretty smelly, and the things that aren't serving us will begin to rot. But the insights that come from these experiences, they're the rich new soil, the new cause that demonstrates this new experiences of love, of God's infinite good. You know, we prepare the soil of our consciousness, and we plant the seeds that are born from the flow of life, from our oneness with the divine presence. You know, when I look around the world right now, when I see things that just happen, like in LA, natural disasters, human injustices, you know, the things that look far apart from the nature of God's good, you know, I try to see them as the old breaking down so that the new can be born. You know, I've been practicing shifting my own consciousness, looking for anything in me that feels separate from the flow of life's good, and to establish myself in my divine identity rather than just in my humanness, and to allow that to inform my actions in the world, you know, and in small but consistent ways. You know, I try to see these unwanted things as the breaking down of the old paradigm. You know, I let them be my compost pile. And this is true of all the things that we encounter in life. You know, I can ask myself, what in this situation, in this circumstance, or this event is asking me, is wanting to break down? It is wanting to become the rich compost in me so that divine truth can reveal itself. This is what we mean when we say that at the heart of every problem is the seed of the solution. Life is continually releasing the old to make room for the new. But at the same time, we honor and take the good from the old as we go. And sometimes it isn't always that comfortable, but it certainly is transformative. That's what it is. It's transformative. I'm tripping on my words. And recently, as I was saying, my practice has been focused on really noticing my thoughts and my feelings at any particular moment in my day as I walk through my day, especially if they make me feel uneasy, recognizing that there really are no neutral thoughts. There really aren't. Every thought is either love or a call to love. And if it's a call to love, then I consciously ask myself, what would love think, feel, or do in this moment? How may I see the possibility for love's expression in this situation? I think I said this the other night in a class, but for example, I saw one of our neighbors in his yard the other day. This particular neighbor has caused us some trouble in the past. He sued us over an easement. And my first thought was, not kind. and I caught myself and I asked myself, how does God see him? So I tried on the namaste point of view. I made an effort to see past my old resentment to his God self, his perfection in God. And I felt better. We're probably not going to be BFFs, but I don't want to hang on to that resentment. It just makes me feel bad. And I've noticed that this approach doesn't always make me feel better right away, but the consistency of doing it has definitely changed the way I feel in general. All in all, I find myself worrying less and I feel happy more often. It's changed my approach from looking at what's wrong, which is such a human thing to do, to seeing what's right. And there is a lot of right in the world. There really is, especially in the heart of humanity. And I feel much more grateful. And if it's a problem that seems persistent and really maybe unsurmountable, either from my individual perspective or collectively, I try to see what it's calling me to. How is this asking me to think differently and to be different in the world? What is this really calling me to be? I try to see it as an invitation to grow and to expand and to unfold into a greater experience of my divine identity. I mean, we're all God stuff, right? There are no solvable problems in God, right? And most of the time, the things that show up for me to shift, the thoughts and feelings, might seem pretty minor. But I still think they're really important. They're wildly important because I don't think there are any neutral thoughts. Our thoughts and our feelings are always impressing law and bringing about some kind of effect. I do think it's the repetition and the habitual pattern of our thoughts and feelings that become our state of being. And that resonance is what demonstrates as our lives. But all the thoughts we think contribute to this greater overall pattern. And I want them to be in alignment with the divine truth, with the truth of God. And I can't help but think of the dramatic examples we have of this kind of shift, of looking for the underlying God in all circumstances. I mean, think about the dramatic examples that we've experienced just in our own lifetimes. We've seen the examples from Gandhi and his nonviolent movement for independence in India, of Nelson Mandela and his incredible shift from fear to love that took him from prison to the presidency of South Africa. Immaculée Ilibiziganda, I knew I was going to mess up her name, as she survived the Rwandan Holocaust. And she had this incredible ability to forgive the very people that slaughtered her entire family. That's big. That's a shift. How about Anita Moorjani, who realized that all she is love and healed herself of cancer? She was on death's door. and it doesn't make my issues or your issues, however big or small they seem, any less problematic. They really aren't that different. There's still a call to love. But all of these shifts contribute to the collective conscious of humanity in some way because we're one. We notice the great big things, but the small things, I believe, are just as important. And this week, we celebrate the work and the legacy of Martin Luther King Jr. And we continue his efforts, his commitment, and his dedication to equality and justice for all people, for peace, just by watching our thoughts. His story of nonviolent action, which he borrowed from Gandhi, is remarkable and a true example of the power that we all hold personally, by moving with the flow of life. By moving with God's loving poise, power, and presence, as Holmes tells us all the time. We are impactful. All of our thoughts, all of our feelings, and our state of being is impactful. We are always impressing creative law. I never want to forget, as Holmes told us, as I've already said, that we are individualizing a universal law at the level that we use it. It's my law when I think about my neighbor in an unkind way. It's my law when I choose to see him as the divine presence. It's my law when I see God in the hungry and the homeless and the grouchy and the ugly. It's my law. And I know that what I visit upon my neighbor or you or anyone else, I visit that upon myself. So I ran across this beautiful quote from Martin Luther King Jr. I don't think we could actually have a talk about celebrating his life without giving a quote from him. I have two actually, but I'm going to share this one now. He wrote, "All life is interrelated. We are all caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly." I actually think it affects us all directly, but that's okay, Martin, you're onto something. "We are made to live together because of this interrelated structure of reality." In other words, our oneness. We're one in everything. And another aspect of life that allows us to choose our thoughts and our feelings and our state of being that Martin was all about, that allows us to individualize the law as our law, is our freedom in God. Freedom is a necessary aspect for life to be life. And that's what we celebrate with King's life, his insistence that for one of us to be free, we must all be free. And life has to be free to express itself. It can't be any other way. And even though we all say we want to be free, the truth is, freedom can actually be a little scary sometimes because it means we're responsible for what we think and feel and the way that we act in the world. I haven't said this for a long time, but I used to say it all the time, and it's still true. In the practice of the science of mind philosophy, the good news is that we never have to be victims again. And the bad news is that we never get to be victims again. We are empowered through our inherent freedom in God. And I've got another quote. This one comes from Marianne Williamson. Actually, at one point it was attributed to Nelson Mandela, but it really came from Marianne. And I think he eventually acknowledged that too. But it's that wonderful quote about our deepest fear. She wrote, "Our deepest fear is not that we're inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small doesn't serve the world. There's nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. You are meant to shine as all children do. Oh, gives me God bumps. This is empowering. It makes me want to stand as a point of light, to emanate the light within me, the God light within me. It makes me want to live in the flow of the divine. So I have one more thing I want to say before I end. I think I might have gone a little long today, but that's okay. So last Wednesday, I was substitute teaching in a first grade class. And in recognition of Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday, the teacher left me a book to read about Martin Luther King's life. And this particular classroom had really a good mix of kids, of ethnicities. There were white kids, there were several African-American kids, and lots of Hispanic kids. And as I was reading the story, it got really quiet. They were drinking it up, which led to this wonderful, first grade conversation about their families. They were so excited to tell me all about the makeup of their families, if they were white or African-American or Hispanic, and many were of mixed heritage. And then we started talking about the color that we are on the inside, and this kind of unusual hush came over the room. Remember, it's first grade. There's rarely a hush that comes over the room. and I was telling them that they all have red blood and they all have white bones, and that their hearts were made for loving, that every one of their hearts was made for loving. Oh, I'm getting goosebumps again thinking about it. It was a kind of special moment. And I love it when that happens in the classroom. That's why I became a teacher in the first place. And you always know if it's meaningful when all the kids are like fully engaged, which tells me that they all have this intuitive knowing of their own oneness with each other. It was a powerful moment. And it inspired me to see the old ideas of separation kind of rotting away and becoming the compost for a better tomorrow. And I was encouraged about the direction that humankind, that humanity can take. And, and I was impressed with these precious little beings of our future. It was a remarkable moment that I just really wanted to share with you. So I want to end today with a quote, another quote, Martin Luther King's, one of his most powerful quotes, and probably most famous and recognizable, but I just love it. So I'm going to read it as the closing prayer. Let freedom ring from every hill, from every mountaintop. Let freedom ring. We are speeding up that day when all of God's children, Black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, will be able to join hands and sing in the words of the old Negro spiritual, free at last, God Almighty, thank God Almighty, we are free at last. Thank you, Martin. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Oh, so I'm just going to drink that in for a second. We have so much good in our human experience. And just by listening to the news, you wouldn't know that. But getting out there and connecting with people, we do know that. So, I'm just going to end there. And I don't know who's doing that. Is it you, Rob? Are you doing the
We'll say yes, just because Lissa and I switched, and that was why I asked you if you could hear me.
Oh,
just in case.
Yes,
just in case the computer was a little slow coming awake, but which is why I was.
To be doing fine today. It's so funny. I never know. Yeah. You never know what you're going to get. Such is life, right?
Anyway, just wanted to take a moment to thank everybody here who's important part of our community. We may be small, but we are definitely significant. And you help us by showing up, and you definitely help us financially too. Thank you for that. You can give by sending money to that place on the screen, and you can give by Venmo and however you give. Thank you so much for that. And we probably have the
There's more, there's more.
but wait, there's more. Order now, and you also get
A pair of Ginsu knives.
everything flows from the nature of God's good. We give and receive from this flow in gratitude and in love. We rest in the infinite giving nature of spirit, and so it is.
So it is. And our announcements are Monday night, we'll do our prayer. And I really enjoy our prayer, and it is a coming together and a support. You know, can I share something you said in the board meeting, Rob?
Sure.
Okay, so Rob said in the board meeting, we were going over the year-end financials and we were going over the financial report. And he was reminding us of how we never know what channels through the human world, the world of form, will be the expression of our prosperity. He was talking about how Tom Sanner got that huge gift, and he said that it happened to Harry Morgan Moses, or I think I got that backwards, but it happened to us in Grants Pass. Someone passed and left us a $25,000 gift, and it happens all the time. Unexpected income comes from avenues that we cannot ever imagine. And I want us to hold that open, that space open for our center. I mean, you guys all give in such wonderful and miraculous ways. Hopefully you got my contribution letters in the email yesterday, and I'm so grateful. But we could use an influx from that unexpected area, and it is so possible. It is possible in the infinite mind of God, and we're going to call that in. So that's all I got to say about that. And we do that on Monday. We get together and we hold this space for our center and for each other, individually and collectively. And then on Tuesday, we're going to do the Law of Manifestation week 2, but we're going to still be doing the introduction, and we're going to do some spiritual practice around the ideas that are in the introduction. I have a couple of spiritual practices that Relaine and I have put together for just to kind of ground us in that idea of, you know, coming from a holistic view of manifestation. So that should be fun. And then let's see, no prayer group this week because there was last week. I do want to say that if you knew Barbara Dykman, I think it is, that her memorial service is on the 29th, which is a Wednesday. I'm not going to take a job on that day so that I can go and honor her life, because she was a really special person. I loved her. So that's happening. And then on February 2nd, we're going to do another collaborative Sunday service with Om Center. Reverend Suzette has had surgery on her knee, and so I am going to be doing the entire talk, not just part of it. I'm going to do the whole thing because otherwise she's going to have to hobble up there with her walker. So I'm going to do that. And did I forget anything? I think I hit it all. So there we go. So I am going to come back to you, Rob, and invite you to give us our benediction.
Let's do that. So just settling in and settling back and feeling the goodness all around us and being so happy of what has happened here and knowing full well that the time spent with each other, considering these thoughts, considering these facts, considering these truths, the more we do this, the better our life gets, and our lives get better and better, and there's always room for more, and it's always available, and we are claiming it, and it is ours, and then there is more, and then there is more, and then there is more, because that's the way that God works. And I do say, thank you, God. Thank you for our meeting today. Thank you for each other. Thank you for the club that we're all in, because it's just a fun place to be. So grateful for this. I release my word, and together we say, and so.
Yes.
And so it is. So, I was on the fence, I gotta tell you, I couldn't decide whether or not I wanted to play, James Taylor's song, Shed a Little Light, or if I wanted to play Michael Gott's, song, Let the World Sing. So I'm gonna play Michael Gott, but I suggest you go and listen to James Taylor Shed a Little Light, because he talks about, he opens the song by saying, let us, what is it? Let us share our thoughts today of Martin Luther King or something like that. Anyway, it's pretty awesome. So, but I think this is a good song to talk about us all coming together in as a world as well. So I'm going to play this one. It was a tough call. And this is not a video, so I'm just going to share the sound here. But it's a wonderful song. We'll play it. Okay, wait, I've got the sound off. There we go.
If thoughts have power, what could we do if everyone thought the same thing? If thoughts have power, what could we do if all of us share the same dream? Each of us believes in something. We all have a choice. If we choose to stand together, to sing out in one voice, then the sound will rumble, the walls will crumble, a brand new kind of dawn, an awakening. It's not a dream. We know we all are one. Let the world sing, joined in harmony. There's a part that is waiting here for you. Let the world sing the song we came to sing. Together, who knows what we can do? In our dream of one world, of one life, can come true. One dream. Each of us believes in something. We all have a choice. So if we choose to stand together, to sing out in one voice, it's becoming clear. Change is near. We have to take a stand. We can work as one. The time has come. The future's in our hands. Let the world sing, joined in harmony. There's a part that is waiting here for you. Let the world sing the song we came to sing. Together, who knows what we can do? Then our dream of one world, of one life, can come true. Let the world sing, join in harmony. There's a part that is waiting here just for you. Join together now. Sing, sing your song. We came to sing, sing it now. Together, who knows what we can do?
yeah.
Wow.
Isn't that a fabulous song? Wasn't that a great song? I love
That's
it.
a great song.
Yeah. And you know, it's all about what's possible for us, especially when we come together in constructive interference. Looks like Elaine popped off, but that's okay. I am going to go ahead and stop our recording.